I decided I wanted to do a video because I knew eventually somebody was going to ask me what's my thoughts on this, and I'm about to give you my thoughts on this. Now, in case you guys don't know, on Monday, it's still Saturday where I'm at. It's about 10 o'clock now. Some of y'all is Sunday. So, happy Christmas Eve going into Christmas. Happy Christmas. Merry Christmas. But um, basically on Christmas Day, which is basically a Monday, you will have the premiere of the remake slash musical version of The Color Purple, starring Fantasia Barrino, Taraji P. Henson, and some other people. I don't feel like going down the whole list of the cast. But in case you don't know, the original. Oh, what's up? What's up? Oh, Scotty, stick around, man. I'm finna cook on this because you a OG like me, so stick around. Stick around. Shout out to my guy, World Combat Sports. Subscribe to his channel. Coming out that ATL Shody. You know what I'm saying? Home of Outkast, who has the highest selling album of all time, Speaker Box to Love Below. I just wanted to say that, rub it in to you Eminem fans. So, the highest selling group of all time come from the ATL, and they're black. Nah, but nah. So, but anyway, I just wanted to cook on The Color Purple. First of all, I never saw the first Color Purple. I had no intentions on watching the first Color Purple. Don't have no intentions on watching this version of The Color Purple. First of all, if you remember, Steven Spielberg directed the first Color Purple, which came out in 1985, was nominated for 11 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and it didn't win none. A lot of people were upset about the fact that you had a white director directing a film that primarily tells the tale of, pretty much a person silly. I think that was played by Whoopi Goldberg, who was abused physically by her father, and then her whatever husband or whatever the case may be. But then I did read a version of the book, and once I read the version of the book, I was like, I'm good, because I already knew what it was, and it was written by Alice Walker, and a lot of people deemed it as basically a film depicting black men in a negative fashion story of America, which continues to go on today. So I never had no desire to watch that film. Did not, never watch that movie ever. People told me to watch it. I was like, for what? I mean, if I want to watch a movie about black men bashing shit, all I got to do is, basically tune in to anything that's put out by Tyler Perry, pretty much, for the most part. So, I mean, it was really no use, you know what I'm saying, to watch that film. I had no interest in watching that film, even before I knew entirely what it was about. It was just certain things back then, even though I was like maybe 9 when that, no, excuse me. I was 10 going on 11 because I was born in 74. So, I might have already been 11. I don't really remember when the movie exactly came out, but I just never had the desire to watch it because I already knew what it was about. And then based off the fact who was behind it, who starred in the movie, Oprah Winfrey played a pivotal role in the movie, and we know Oprah Winfrey is a notorious black man hater, black man basher, even though she tries to hide behind Stedman. If you look at some of the things that Oprah Winfrey has done to demonize black men and showed her blatant double standards, it is what it is. So, like I said before, um, people who have seen the movie and heard about the remake, which is like a musical version, they're upset about it because they feel like it rehashes old, old feelings and issues that happened when the first film came out. So, like I said before, yeah, I know I know Steven Spielberg directed the first film, but he got his karma, and this is funny too. because everybody knows I'm from Oakland, California. But Steven Spielberg got his karma when he made what it was called, Schindler's List, and he had a showing, I think, at the Grand Lake Theater in Oakland, which it's a national landmark. It's over there by the lake. So if you come to Oakland, or you ever been to Oakland, the Grand Lake Theater is a national landmark, and they had a viewing for I think it was Castlemont High off of MacArthur. That's over there in the 90s, close to the 90s. No, yeah, Castlemont is in the 90s, but Castlemont is in the 90s area, you know. So they had a showing, and I never saw Schindler's List neither. I never saw that movie, had no desire to watch that movie, but there's a scene where somebody gets deleted. So basically, the people that watched it started laughing, which for some reason caused a national outcry. And people, it made national news that people laughed at the part, from Oakland, from Castlemont High, about somebody getting deleted, a scene where somebody got deleted. I don't know. Maybe they found it funny. So it caused a national outcry. And Steven Spielberg ended up coming to Oakland to have this long drawn lecture about the film and all this kind of stuff. So, because he wanted people to, I guess, have some sympathy and empathy for what happened with Schindler's List. And I don't want to go into deep detail, but I found that ironic because I remember that like it was yesterday. I know Schindler's List came out sometime like in the 90s. I don't remember when it came out. But if you from Oakland and you like in my age range, you remember when that happened. So I just thought that was hilarious. Like, it just caused a national outcry. Like, this made national news. Oh my, students in Oakland, California laugh at a deletion scene in the movie Schindler's List. I mean, this made national news. Like really? I mean, Steven Spielberg was so distraught. You took a trip to Oakland to come give somebody a lecture, but just goes to show you, it's funny how people accuse us black people of being sensitive, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, that wasn't a big deal. If that was me, I wouldn't even responded. I would have just maybe, keep in mind, they didn't have Twitter back then. They didn't have Twitter. They didn't have YouTube. They didn't have none of this stuff. It was just media. And this made national news. I think this made Nightline or something. But it made the local news. It made the national news. I know the Oakland Tribune came down to Castlemont High when Spielberg did his lecture trying to explain the difficulties and what those people. And see, that's the thing, though. What tripped me out, nobody has empathy or sympathy for what happened to us over a 400-year period and still continues to happen. But that's the thing. Everybody want us to feel sorry for them. Everybody wants sympathy for their group, but everybody tell us, oh, we need to quit crime. We need to get over it. We need to move on. Well, you know what? I mean, what's up? Shouldn't y'all have the same sentiments? But that's what I'm saying. And this is what I said in previous videos about people trying to guilt trip us. But like I said before, I had no desire to ever watch The Color Purple. And like I said, it took nerve for somebody like Steven Spielberg to even direct a movie like that. Now, keep in mind, this is 1985. This is the 80s. So, as you guys know, there was a lack of black directors. Spike Lee wouldn't debut for another 3 years when he made no, wait a minute. Yes. Spike Lee wouldn't debut for another 3 years when he came out with School Days. I think that was his. No, sorry, you guys. She's Gotta Have It was his first movie, and that was in black and white. And then he made School Days. So Spike Lee wouldn't basically turn up for like another 2.5, 3 years from 1985. So there was a shortage of black directors. Now you had occasionally you had Melvin Van Peebles, but I don't think Melvin Van Peebles, who directed one of my favorite all-time movies, you could watch it on Tubi occasionally, called The Watermelon Man. If I, yeah, you need to watch that movie. So it was sort of like in reverse of that book Black Like Me or whatever it was called, but it was a movie directed by Melvin Van Peebles, Mario Van Peebles' father, R.I.P. To the great Melvin Van Peebles. But it was a shortage. But at the end of the day, they could have found a black director. It's not like they couldn't have found one. I'm pretty sure somebody would have been willing to direct it that was black. But at the end of the day, the film got made. Like I said, I don't know what it did at the box office. Now, keep in mind, back then in the 1980s, the average movie, whether it did good at the box office or not, it had a minimal at least a 90-day run at the theaters. Now, these movies now, they at best they're doing, for the most part, they're doing 2 months, before they basically pull the movie out the theaters and put it on streaming services. Some have streaming and theatrical releases at the same time. So keep in mind, all this stuff didn't exist. So basically, you had to either go see it at the movie theater or wait a year until it came on HBO or Showtime. And since the movie was made by Warner Brothers, even though Warner Brothers didn't get bought by didn't buy HBO or whatever, didn't become Time Warner till like sometime in the late 90s. Warner Brothers had a deal with HBO where they showed HBO's where HBO showed Warner Brothers films. So this is just going back. But like I said before, stuff was a lot different back then. People went on real dates. People weren't lazy. You know, Back then, you either had to go see the movie at the theater or you would have to wait anywhere from 4 to 6 months before it came out on VCR. And probably some of y'all don't even know what a damn VCR is. So, and keep in mind, back then in the 80s, they had Beta and they had VHS. Then Beta pretty much died out, and then they was just left with VHS. So I'm a historian when it comes to pop culture. But anyway, as I was saying, just going back to that film, a lot of people thought it was very offensive. Now, of course, if you have that black man hating blood in your system, of course, you're going to enjoy it. Oh, your mom. Oh, you know what? You know what was so funny about that? I asked my mother about that movie. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my mom. My mom did not want to see that movie. She said, I don't would, I said, Mom, you going to see The Color Purple? My mom's like, I don't want to see that shit. So shout out to my mom. My mom was very particular about some of the movies that she watched. She had no desire to see that, you know. But well, hey, and well, let me ask you something. Now, along the line of being on point about what the movie's premise is, am I at least in am I at least in the ballpark what the premises of the movie is? Because this is what people told me, and a lot of people ran from this conversation concerning that movie. But just reading the book and then listening to what people said about the movie, Steven Spielberg like really demonized black men and stereotyped black men in that movie. And keep in mind what was so funny? The Color Purple came out in 1985. The same year, probably one of the most offensive movies ever made came out. Soul Man with C. Thomas Howell. That's funny. 1985 produced arguably one of the most racist movies ever made in Soul Man. But I could make an argument that The Toy with Richard Pryor might be the most racist movie ever made. And then the original Birth of a Nation. But most of us wasn't around when the original Birth of a Nation came out. But Soul Man came out that same year. And Soul Man, like I said, was one of the most offensive movies. And keep in mind, I'm like 10, 11 years old when that movie came out, and I found that movie highly offensive. And I'm a kid. Either Soul Man came out in 85 or 86, but it was along the lines. If it didn't come out in 85, it came out in 86. So, and then we 3 years removed from the toy with Richard Pryor. Like I said, the toy is arguably one of the most racist movies, ever made. That movie was extremely racist. So I'm just saying, go. But back then they could never get away with making a movie like that. They could never make a movie called Soul Man, because Soul Man was really about so-called reverse racism. Which, by the way, there's no such thing as reverse racism. You know. So in the 80s, you had within that three-year gap, you had The Toy, starring Richard Pryor and Jackie Gleason. Then you had in between. Then you had The Color Purple. Then you had Soul Man. And if you want to make an argument that The Color Purple was racist, then you go ahead. And based off the fact that it had a white director, you have to question what Steven Spielberg's intentions was. But like I said, he got his karma. He got his karma when he put out Schindler's List. That was payback for directing that movie. At the end of the day, Steven Spielberg could have found a black director to direct that movie. Now, the new director, I'm going to just say, who happened to be a black man, I'm going to say, I'm going to say my antennas is up about him. And I'm just going to leave it at that. But as I said before, I have no intentions of watching The New Color Purple. I decided to address this because I knew it was coming. Well, there you have it. I don't think this movie is going to do very well, because you have to, if it does, I'll be surprised, because you have to look at the timeline now when that came out, because the first Color Purple, I don't think did very well at the box office. I'll have to see what it did at the box office, what it did opening weekend and all that stuff. It's pretty easy to look up the numbers and what it did, because all you got to do is go back to Box Office Mojo. It pretty much have all the info of what a movie made opening weekend and what it went on to gross. So, but yeah, appreciate you guys. Once again, I have no desire or interest in watching the remake musical version of The Color Purple. I'm not really gonna attack the cast. At the end of the day, they have to do what they got to do to a certain degree, but at the same time, I'm good. Uh I'm starting to get those vibes about him, but appreciate you guys. I'm out.